Having trouble finding work-life balance or balance in your life in general, maybe what you actually need is a perspective shift on balance. There's a potential problem with thinking about balance as the strategy for something that you're constantly doing, like living your life. Things that require constant focus on balance are exhausting. If you're comfortable riding a bike, do you think about balance when you're doing it? Walking is often described as a sort of controlled falling, but are you concentrating on it? When you're sitting down, you're not thinking about balance, at least not if you're succeeding. In fact, in my own experience, the more I think directly about balance, the more I realize I was unbalanced all along. I just didn't care because I was succeeding in the bigger picture. I think of myself as balanced when I'm standing up, but I'm swaying from side to side. I think I'm walking in straight lines, but when I try, it's difficult. And we don't, in fact, walk in straight lines, and we don't cycle in them either. Being focused on balance does not determine success in these movements and activities. Things that require constant focus on balance are exhausting. No, balance is a result that you can briefly observe if you don't look too closely, but not a fundamental strategy. And the idea of balancing in your life as the working strategy, as the object of your focus, has a lot of the same problems, even if riding a bike is very different from living a life. But we're often so results oriented that it's easy to overlook the work that determines the results and only praise the outcomes. So take a trip with me and let's ignore balance for the next few minutes and think from a different perspective. I think a better perspective and a more fundamental principle to organize yourself around is life alignment. Things that compound together and also strongly connect back into each other. It's a core principle I think we've lost throughout society and in our individual lives, and a strong reason why we're so caught up in the exhausting idea of balancing things that have little to no relationship to each other. A lot of us work in jobs that, as we gain more perspective on, we might not necessarily think are that important. We might still be interested in our field of employment and we might be interested in someone paying us, but maybe the work we do isn't exactly fulfilling our life mission, if we even know what that is. And that's a fundamental problem that compounds negatively not only in your life, but in society. That is, when we use our talent to drive things forward that we don't actually believe in. When I was younger, I more strongly believed in the idea and possibility of the work to live mentality as opposed to the live to work one. I believed in that exactly because I saw people that were spending huge amounts of effort in their life for results that seemed objectively not that important. But I was wrong. Not because spending time on unimportant things is important, but because not living for your work creates a huge imbalance in your life. And then you need to fix that in the diminished hours and often with fading energy outside of work. There's a corollary work mentality in the effective altruism world that we can call work to give. It claims it can be worthwhile to strive to make as much money as you can so that you can give it away to things that are more meaningful to you. And I'm not at all saying that's wrong, but again, I think we underestimate the damage we potentially do in that strategy as well, both to ourselves and potentially to the values we promote in society through our life work. It's not a given. I'm just saying the risks are higher, and most people won't stay hyper focused on the math to know the actual truth of what they've done, which is understandable because that's exhausting even when it's critical. There's once again a need for balance. But good alignment comes to the rescue because it helps remove the need to constantly be doing difficult life math to maintain balance. A very simple example follows: eating whole foods versus eating junk foods. Your body is naturally better at sending you the right signals that keep your weight better in check when eating whole foods without you doing life math counting calories eating junk foods. It makes sense from the knowledge we have in the field, and studies back it as well. It's an easy to understand, but not necessarily easy to implement strategy. But if you do adopt it, there's a good chance you will permanently solve a problem in your life and increase your ability to focus on other things and progress instead of constantly fighting to maintain and to balance. That's the power of alignment. There are certain conditions under which your body just functions better, and if you live them, you benefit. And if you don't, you have to do more work forever. So, returning to work philosophies, when it comes to work to live, no, I find it's better to move towards a live to work mentality. Not in the way that it takes up all your time and energy, but that you get core life values fulfilled by what you do. And I'm not talking about the type of values we confirm amongst ourselves, like it earns me enough money to buy the things that I want. Now, you might balk at this deprioritization of making money and the security it provides and the belittlement of value in the workplace and think this is just a luxurious way of thinking. And it is luxurious. We all need to have money in order to buy the things we need to survive and take care of our families and make it through hard times. I completely agree with that. But how often in life do we attain real power and knowledge through our growth and simply fail to use it to make the best investments in future us? Just ask yourself, is your end goal in life to keep justifying what you're already doing? Because it's hardly ever the case that what we're already doing is the best expression of what we could do. Is the you from 10 years ago the wisest version of yourself? It makes just as little sense to be sure what we think and do today can't be improved upon. And in the end, what's fundamentally luxurious is to constantly prioritize short term thinking over the longer term. Balance becomes harder and harder the more what is important for us to do is not aligned with what we actually do. Our physical health is extremely important to us, whether we acknowledge it or not. Our emotions and default psychology are so strongly linked to our health. We can overcome it, yes, but it's always a sort of mental balancing work that we need to do. Life becomes easier again when we're aligned. Less balancing is necessary. Yet we skip what would ordinarily be our base level of physical training in order to walk as little as possible, avoid stairs, carry as little weight as possible. There's a lot of talk about the benefits of what's called Zone 2 training for our metabolic health, which many people may imagine as going for a run or bike ride, when in reality, for a large part of the population, it's just walking. And then it might be walking at a slightly faster pace or while having a backpack on with some groceries or house necessities. It's okay if it takes much more time when we're actually aligning several important things together. Meaningful training for our health can simply be increasing your baseline capability to do life things instead of needing to have them done for you. But you may also find out that walking or biking as a form of transportation also becomes a kind of therapy, a time to think away from distractions and see the world from a more human perspective instead of always living life as a car. We don't want to invest in what we sometimes see as extra time to do things this way, but then we have to try to find ways to do them anyways, and we often fail to get these things done that are objectively important to our well being. And if we fail that long term and your individual ability decreases, then you see an increase in your individual cost of living, both financially and experientially, and that's real personal pain. And that's often a cost borne by all of society as well. Whether healthcare is public or private, the mechanism of sharing costs are the same. It's more expensive for the individual and for society. The money we could use to progress gets used up in maintaining, in balancing, and that's always the result when things aren't well aligned. Extra work, forever, creating problems instead of solving problems. We make life harder by focusing on balance without thinking about alignment. Do you know what the world record for a freestanding handstand is? Just standing upright except upside down? 17 minutes, 33 seconds. And if you simply align that person right side up, even just standing on one foot, that time goes up to nearly 77 hours. So, are you upside down or right side up? Because the wrong alignment will cost you all of your energy and focus. Our personal lives are often out of alignment. Society is out of alignment. And these two things feed back and forth between each other. But which direction we point our own lives in makes all the difference for the future. In the short term, we can think about balance in our lives and try to test out and figure out things that bring us back to the center from the extremes we put ourselves into. I'm not saying paying attention to balance isn't a helpful guidepost, but in the long term, you can't constantly be trying to balance everything in your life. It's exhausting and requires real work to stay focused on. You have to orient into something that may take time to build up, but that holds you up in the right direction by itself without doing the constant work. And that's what alignment is about. That's what really solving a problem looks like. And what are you aligning yourself back towards? Those are your fundamental principles and absolute core values. Values like family, health, and community. And then other fundamental principles of action like energy conservation, problem solving, clearer logic, deep understanding. What I hope is that this slight perspective shift on balance and alignment can give you even just a little boost in the time and energy you invest in your own life. More people investing in having fundamentally higher quality lives is going to show out in society. And importantly for you, show in your own experiences. Gotta go. Peace out.